must develop the marine technology. And as 1972, when he set up the River State College of Science and Technology, marine engineering was one of the departments. Maybe one of the first few departments of marine engineering in Nigerian institutions. That is the vision. He may share with us his educational vision. And when Okilo became the elected governor, he now, of course, I think 1978, 78, upgraded the College of Education to River State University of Science and Technology. The River State University of Science and Technology was the first state-owned university in Nigeria. So somebody had a vision. It was the very first state-owned university. And one unique thing Okilo did again was that, though the university was science and technology, but he opened faculty of law. Yes, sir. He had a vision. Though later on, I think NUC pressurized the Bayelsa State Government that they were going to close the law faculty, or they changed the name of the university. They opted to change the name of the university to River State University to retain the law program. But if I were the governor, I would have moved the law faculty to the second university and retain that identity that the River State University of Science and Technology was the first state-owned university of science and technology, and also the first university of science and technology in Nigeria. Now they are losing that identity. I'm saying this because if his son who was the pioneer vice chancellor was here with us, could have told us the vision of the NPN government then, the educational vision that made them to establish the University of Science and Technology and included the law faculty. So today, I'm just going to share your ideas, my ideas with you, my vision, and just like the educational policy states, my vision of philosophy of development is that to develop a people must be based on education. And if you don't give them a functional education, you can never expect a functional society. Even the way people live, people build their houses. If you go to where people have functional education, and somebody is building a house in the midst of other houses, you will know that these people are educated. Somebody cannot even build a high-rising building to block the wind from thrashing other people. I remember, like in environmental science, they were talking about an example in Japan where somebody wanted to build how many stories building. And of course, they said no. If you get above this level, 6 floors must go down because you'll be creating problems for other people who are residing in the place. So, education, for us to change Bayelsa State, for us to change Nigeria, education is key. And I will not bore you because the governor was in the Merigui the whole day. When I came, I was a deputy governor to Adamasia, I was at the state level for the 8 years. But when I took over as a governor, of course, luckily, there are 2 actors with us in this hall. James Tobias was my commissioner for education, and he's a part of the Professor Ison's team. And of course, Joe Idri was my commissioner for youth and sports. And when you talk about education, you are talking about youth, children, and youth. So what I'm going to tell you was our collective vision with other members of the council. The first challenge I had was that when I think Shell, also one of the multinational oil companies, they published their scholarship list for secondary school, for university. In Bayelsa State, there was almost nobody. So I confronted them. We operating in Bayelsa State. Bayelsa State also have a unique history that what interested so many companies to rush into Nigeria was the discovery of oil in commercial quantities in Olobi that made others to rush in. So we have that unique history to ourselves. So, will you award scholarship and we will not see Bayelsa? They say, but they did not pass our entrance and so money. I said, okay. I told myself that I'm going to produce a generation of children that will never fail anybody's exams. So I said that we must make education very functional in Bayelsa State, and we'll start from the primary. And we are trying to develop what we call, now the state has modified and they are going that proper direction, but what we call a teachers retraining institute. Because then I saw that a number of people teaching at the primary school level were not really fit to teach. They had all the sizes of certificates, number, and so on. Then the NC distance learning too was a big problem to me. Because when I visited some of the sites of the NC distance learning, some of the instructors themselves are supposed to be students. Because I lectured at the College of Education, and I knew the quality of lecturers then, and the quality of students. Then when I saw the people who were teaching the NC, I said, no. I said, the best thing this state will do, we aren't going to compete with anybody. If you want to teach in our primary schools, no matter the certificates that whether you come with master's degree, PhD, no problem, but you will pass through our training program. And when we satisfy that you can teach, I'm not going to give any external body to even assess my teachers. If you get the NC, TC2, PhD, and you want to teach at the primary, we'll employ you as a Bayelsa, but then you must pass through teachers retraining, and until you pass, we'll not send you to the classroom, because you cannot give what you don't have. So we must strengthen the program. That's why we started building the teacher retraining institute. We started some 3 buildings. At the secondary school level, yes, my vision, just like Derry's vision, because it was our collective vision, was to make sure that we improve the quality of all our secondary schools. We said that government doesn't have so much money. We cannot do that overnight. We can't even do that in 4 years. But to start with, let us quickly build 2 specialized schools so that the best brains will go around the whole country, or the whole state. Do we select from the terminal classes in the primary school, subject them to training and so on, and the best brains will go to those schools, and the standard, well, after that we have to go to the central district, then of course, go down to all the secondary school. But my anger was, why will Bayelsans write exams and they will fail? I feel that it was discrimination, and I promised that I will get a set Bayelsan that will write the exams and they will not fail. So you will not tell me a story. If you ask, I'll ask for the script. So it's good that we have this vision. And of course, my idea of the tertiary education, I stayed there as a governor for just slightly less than 1.5 years, was just like I mentioned about King's Cliff and the Department of Marine Engineering. My feeling is that Bayelsa, I always say Bayelsa, we are more riverine than River State, and we are more deltaic than Delta State. If we were animals, they would have described us as amphibious. Living in water and living on land. So we expect that anything about Bayelsa, any institution we are having, especially tertiary institution, we should have the best departments or institutions for marine technology. We should lead this country in anything maritime, whether communication, whether technology, science, anything. And that was my vision, that we'll restructure NDU, that the marine engineering, we must get a functional marine engineering department, that they are graduates. People will call them to work, they will not even interview them. Because they say, okay, you came from NDU, marine engineering, okay, come, we are going to employ you. The quality will be so high. And we'll get the best people from all over the world to come and teach. So I'm happy with the vision for the governor's doing and what we are doing today. This will show a clear roadmap for where the state will go. Then I was just having this dream, discussing with my colleagues, members of ESCO, and we are going. But there was no really, we did not approach it this way. This is better, it's more comprehensive, because we are bringing intellectuals from all over the country, including Bayelsans, to shape and develop a program for at least 25 years, and let that program go to the State Assembly, so it should be backed up by law. so that if I become a governor again, I will not wake up and go and do something because of my personal interest. Anything that is going to be done must be in the state's interest. And you are doing very well. And we must really know where the world is going. When I listen to the other speakers from Sterling Bank and others, it touches me. When I moved to the center, somebody mentioned about Al-Majri, so maybe I'll start from there. The primary and secondary education based on the Constitution is not a responsibility of the federal government. But government must look forward, envisage problems, and government must think about how to solve problems. When I was the vice president, one of my technical assistants, one Akashku from Anambra State, we discussed and said, look, the crisis we're having in the north, we must find out how. We spoke about the miners, just riots that happened in Kano, Kaduna, Yola, and others. And some group of boys, young boys, appears not to have vision. And can we allow a system like that? We will have crisis tomorrow in this country. So they went around the north, discussed with the clerics who are teaching these boys under trees and very makeshift buildings, discussed with the emirs and so on. And we identified that we have a group of boys, and they are Muslims. So most Muslims, when you understand the Quran, it's like you are more than even a professor of law. And through that Amazigh program, they understand the Quran very well, and you don't underrate them. Some of them have even memorized the Quran, voluminous as the Quran. So somebody who can memorize the Quran, most of us cannot even memorize a chapter of the Bible. For somebody to memorize the Quran, and you say that person is not educated, they are not telling the truth. They felt they were educated, but the society still rejects them in a way that even their local governments cannot employ them even as messengers, because they don't have any element of Western education attached to the Quranic education. So you see a group of people who feel they are so educated, they feel regarding Islam they are even better than professors. And then society appears to neglect them. So they constantly are attempting to revolt against society. So at any slightest provocation, they become wild because of their frustration, because they are already angry with society. And that's why they might have seen the just riot, just almost consume the whole north then. And of course, we are now having this issue of Boko Haram, and that this has to do with education. And that's why the federal government said, look, we must assist the states. These young people must be encouraged to study the Islamic education. But in addition to the Islamic education, we're not going to remove anything from it. They should also take some parts of Western education, so that when they finish at that level, primary, secondary school, those of them want to continue, can enter the university and become professors of Islamic study, Islamic law, and any other thing, or medical doctors or engineers, depending on whatever they want. And we believe that if we have that kind of a program over a period of time, we'll pull most of these young boys in the street that will be used for riot. Because it's difficult for you to go and convince educated people to do certain things. And so without education, you can't even manage the security of this country. Of course, that was what motivated us to go into the Al-Majri education that the young lady mentioned. I didn't even want to mention that. But then, one thing at the state level, when my vision was, look, we must get Bayelsa the best training. I remember that 2006, when we started building the special schools, we said we will not wait until those schools are ready. So I think we got about 100 or 120. We asked people to go around the communities and get the best. Any primary school, the first and second, and so on, subject them to entrance, and we selected the best, and we send them to the best secondary schools in the country. And luckily for them, by the time they finished, I was already in Abuja. So the amnesty was able to send them to US and UK. But somehow, that program didn't continue. Well, my idea was that every year we'll take between 150 until we get a special schools that can give the kind of education I have in mind. But when I went to the center, it's difficult to, federal government has nothing to do with primary education, secondary education. Even the Al-Majari program we tried to step in was controversial. And that's why immediately I left, it was abandoned. So my vision was a country like Nigeria. We must be good in technology. We have a space program in Nigeria. Space programs are not for average people. Whether you like it or not, just like I said, the fingers are not equal, the cranial capacities too are not equal. So some people have more brain than you like. So just like we use our skilled footballers to go and play soccer, let us also use the best brain to go and push this country forward. That's why I came up with that program of Presidential Special Scholarship for Innovation and Development. First of all, you will make a first class in the STEM areas in your university. Then those of them who make the first class, so we select the first class from the first class. And the federal government will send you to the best universities in the world. My idea then was that if we run that program for a period of 10 years, our Nigerian space program must be developed to the level that even the developing countries will be looking at us. They will be afraid of us. Yeah, because in society, others must fear you. We have a nuclear program. We are appointed Dr. Saisa Yabon as the DG, then he served 22 tenders. But we have not gone too far. And I was very impressed because when I became acting president in 2010, then President Obama had his first nuclear summit. About 3 or 4 African heads of states were invited. I was invited, though I was an acting president, and Gabon too, and 2 others. And that was the time as an acting president, I even had a visit to the State House. And the Americans were saying, you are just the first or the second acting president that the President of America will have a discussion with. But the key thing is that why did they invite the Nigerian president or acting president to discuss nuclear? Because we had a nuclear program. And if you have a nuclear program, the world will be afraid of you. And they monitor you. So I said that we must train our best brain so that our space technology and nuclear program will develop to the level where we should be recognized and appreciated, not treated like as if we're nobody. But what today ICT is key, and I'm quite impressed with is it Vertebra that spoke about the ICT, the young lady. Thank you for what you are doing for the state and the governor and his team, the vision. Because the world, the ICT revolution is the one you cannot forget. Our primary schools and our secondary schools must be fully involved, not just learning ICT by drawing like we see in some of the video clips, but our children must have the laptops and the computers and play with them. In 2017, I attended, as I left office 2017, I was invited for a program, I think the Roads Forum in a city called Rhodes in Greece. They called Dialogue of Civilization. That was the program, Dialogue of Civilization. And one of the presentations that interests me was presented by a husband and wife from Russia. Both of them are IT gurus. But one key thing he mentioned at that 2017 was that in 25 to 30 years, most magistrates will lose their jobs. You can see the law is a very conservative profession. But he said that society will begin to use robots to listen to cases, so there will be no human element. So all what the magistrate or the technical people in the chambers of the magistrate or the judge will do is that he presents a case, they will just key into the robot, and the robot analyze it and give judgment. So that is where the world is going. So if the world is going to that direction, if that's the direction of the world, then you know that we have problems on our hands. I don't know how we create jobs for the massive youths that we are producing every day. ICT is replacing almost everything. And in that case, our education, the basis of ICT, it has to start from nursery school. You don't have to wait until you go to the university before you go and read computer science like we, our SEC will do. Just as I learned English language, ICT is the language. Just like you learn basic mathematics to help even trading and so on, ICT is, of course, you know these days, banking, everything has to do with programs and so on. So I'm quite pleased the level the state is going. That is the focal point, and with the vertebrae, I believe we'll go very, very far in that. I also say before I drop that one key thing, the state, when the professors, when they make their presentations, and when they want to develop the policy and so on, please don't forget the importance of languages. I feel very sad that we pass through schools that were not standard schools. I attended Matade High School then. After the war, then Matade High School was the only school that, that was the first secondary school in Norway. It was established before the war. Then when Governor Spiff became a British governor, it was a class 3 school then. When you finish class 3, then you have to go to Oka to do your 4 and 5. It was a junior secondary school owned by the Catholic Church. But when King Spiff became the governor of the state, I'm saying that we need to listen to his own vision for the education, and took over all the primary schools and secondary schools owned by the churches and converted all of them to government schools so that the state will give a clear vision for the education of our children. Of course, I benefited because I also got a secondary school scholarship then from him. So I stayed in the boarding school. I stayed in the boarding school throughout my period without my father spending any money. In fact, the money we paid in my year 1, the first 2 semesters, they even refunded, and we had a lot of money to spend. So they had a vision for that. And when a government has that kind of a vision, then there are things that go with it. I mentioned Matade because when I was to buy my books for class 1, there was one of these books, Let's Speak French, book 1. And we were eager to buy the books, we want to learn French. Unfortunately, the time when I entered the school, the only French teacher they had was transferred to another school. And they had none until I left. In most cases, we don't know that language is very critical. The time I was a governor, I remember there was a time I addressed some of the elders of Bayelsa State. I don't know whether King Spiff was there to remember. Some of you may remember. And I said that we must make sure that by the time our children finish primary school and secondary school, they must speak at least 2 international languages. We must create global citizens. And that has to be built into your educational policy. You must develop grow-up children that will see themselves as global citizens, not rural citizens belonging to Twoke. We were rural, but our children should not be rural. Then at the state level too, I said that it is very sad for me if I am with, maybe I travel to Abuja or to Port Harcourt somewhere, and maybe with my 2 of my commissioners, and there are other people from. And if I want to tell the commissioner something, I will use English. We don't have a common language we can use to communicate in Bayelsa State. It is wrong. When I first said that, I remember some challenges I had. Some of my elders in the state said, no, you want to promote one language above others. I said, no. We'll develop all our we should be able to develop that. That does not mean that an Ogbia man will not develop the Ogbia language. But Ogbia is not so spread in Bayelsa State, whether you like it or not. So we must take one of the languages that is well spread, make sure that we teach that language in addition to our own local languages. If you're from Ogbia, we teach Ogbia, Nembe, we teach Nembe, Epi, we teach Epi, and so on and so forth. But then that language, that if we are with others, we should be able to. One thing that sometimes when the North, when they come together, because of politics and so on, that's the number one thing in the North is that everybody speaks Hausa. But not every Northerner is Hausa. In fact, Adamawa State alone, I was told that they have between 50 to 70 different tribes and languages. That's Adamawa State. They have more tribes than the whole of the Niger Delta put together. The Fulanese speak Fulfulde. That's Fulfulde is their language. But all of them speak Hausa. So that brings them together. So if we must come together, we must have one language that we will use to communicate in this state. My plan was that to establish language centers in Lagos, in Port Harcourt, in Abuja, for our children that are outside Bayelsa State, and strengthen the teaching of languages. I haven't been privileged to get to the center and become, through your grace and the grace of other Nigerians and the grace of God, I became vice president and president. I realized that we, the Anglophone countries, have very weak educational system compared to the Francophone countries. And what I describe it as the arrogance of the Anglophones. If you take ECOWAS, for example, we have 15 countries in ECOWAS, only 4 that English is the lingua franca: Nigeria, Ghana, Sierra Leone, and Liberia. The other ones are either Francophone and 2 Lusophone. And they will be surprised that when we attend some meetings, I remember when I was the vice president, I represented President Yar'Adua then in when we have the Gulf of Guinea